Hello, hello. Today we have the Goddess palette by Alter Ego. Now this Goddess palette is a dupe for a Natasha Denona palette. I believe this is a dupe for the gold palette because from what I know, the gold palette is no longer sold. It was limited edition. You can no longer buy it. You'd have to buy it from a reseller in order to get it, which is why there's kind of been a rebrand of that palette, and there's this new golden palette from Natasha Denona coming out, I believe sometime this week if it hasn't already come out. And this is a dupe for that, I guess you could call it that predecessor. This is from Alter Ego. I've tried Alter Ego once before. I thought they were decent, and I am with this palette continuing that belief. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about with this palette was the price point. So I bought this palette over a year ago. So if I look into my receipts, it looks like I literally purchased this on June 9th, 2023. So at that time, the Goddess 15 color eyeshadow, it says eyeshadow collection, but I believe it was just the palette. If I can move right there, it was $18. It was $18, and I did get a discount on it. So I actually ended up getting this for $14.40 a year ago. That's how much I got this for. If you were to check on the website today, if we go on the website right now, it says Goddess 15 color eyeshadow collection, and a 15 color eyeshadow palette featuring a mix of matte, metallic, and duochrome shades with gold, brown, and green tones. This on the website right now is $22. So that price has really jumped up. Even at $18, that's $4 more than it was a year ago, which is, I mean, for some people may not be too big of a jump, but it really is the difference when it's under $20 and over $20 for some people. Not everyone can, buy palettes that might be a little bit more what we might call mid-range, which is the 20 and up, right? So at the time when I bought this was going for $18. I got it on sale. I got it for even less, $14.40. It is now on for $22. $22. It kind of sucks that the pricing for so much stuff has gone up. But I think for $22, this still isn't a bad buy. For $22, I still feel like that's at least somewhat affordable. And for the formula you're getting in here, I don't think it's too bad. So back here, you'll see we have the ingredients and just some of that Alter Ego information. And then which I love that they have this little tab right here, so it makes it so much easier to pull it out. And it looks exactly the same. The box and the outside looks exactly the same. And on the back, it has the names of the shades. And I believe that for a time, these Alter Ego palettes, I believe, also used to be magnetic, just like the Natasha Denona ones, but I believe they no longer are, and I don't think this one is either. But let's open the Goddess palette up. So in here, we'll see a little mirror. There is a small square mirror in there if you're interested. And then this is the color story. And if you've seen a picture of the original Natasha Denona story, you can definitely tell that this is a dupe for that color story. And I very much do love the color story because I love yellows, and gold is kind of a part of that. I like the pops of, on the website it says green. I would consider these more blue shades. I don't know about y'all, but these are very blue teal to me versus a green teal to me. You know what I mean? These are more blue. And we got some golds in there. So color story wise, I really like the color story. I love golds. I like the pops, these pops of what I call blue. I think it makes it very interesting. But in terms of formula, let's talk about formula. So I think for the mattes, the mattes in here are, I would dare say, divine. I really love the mattes, especially for the price that this palette is at, and especially for the price that I got it at, for about $15. I think I got some really great, amazing mattes. One of my favorite things to work with in this palette are the mattes. I didn't really have a preference towards any specific brow matte in general, but I will say as a light-skinned, light medium brown skinned person, these browns actually did show up on my skin. As you can see, some of these, so these four mattes over here, they're kind of in the middle, but they still show up. And then we have a darker brown and that what I would call blue. So let's maybe swatch that one. I didn't get too much of the blue when I worked with it. I didn't really feel like this blue shade for me did much to elevate my look. I thought it was okay. It blended out right for me. I don't know for anyone else if you would want a darker blue, but when I'm trying to do more of a neutral look, I'm kind of just using it to darken my outer corners. These are so pretty and they're so smooth. I really like that. Even this one called Hera. Oh, I really like that. You can't see it too much on the camera, I feel like, this middle shade, but I think it's a really pretty shade. So overall, the mattes are good in here. Now, if you're new to my channel, you may not know, but I am a shimmer girl. That's usually what makes it or breaks it for me for these palettes and keeping them. So am I keeping this palette? I don't think so. And I don't think it's because necessarily of the formula or anything that's necessarily wrong with it. I just don't think it's for me. And this is one of the times I can tell you exactly why it's not for me. And it kind of began with this shade over here called Artemis. I thought Artemis was going to be quite opaque. Onto my eye, it was sheer. It was quite sheer. It was a lot sheerer than I was expecting. If you can tell, it kind of has a black base, and then it kind of has that green kind of light jade with some gold sparkle, but I thought this was too light for me when I applied it on my eye. I was able to pick up all these shimmers with a brush. I didn't have to worry about picking them up with my fingers, so I will say that. It's kind of like half and half overall, I think, for me. I think my favorite shimmer in here was this Aura over here, because I realized this is how I like my shimmers to be. And I guess I like my shimmers to be almost a little bit more like, what's the word? Metallic? Like, do you see how this one's like more metallic and this one's got like a lot of sparkle in it? I think in this case I really like this metallic a lot more. I was expecting more of the shades to be like this and to kind of be like these solid gold metallics, but what I ended up getting was a lot of gold sparkle. And for me, I think my favorite shades in this palette ended up being something like this row of just like shimmer shades. I like this Cassandra, I liked Venus. I think these performed very well. Venus is also more of the metallic kind of formula. So if we go over here, you can see it is more of that metallic formula that I really like versus like a shimmer. But I did like this one. This is the shade that I always called like a Tinkerbell color. It's more of a topper, but it's got like a green kind of shift to it. And I think those shades are really pretty. But there is, I don't know how else to say it. There is a shit ton of freaking glitter sparkle everywhere. It just gets everywhere. Here's another shade. There's so much sparkle everywhere. It gets everywhere. It's not as bad as the Bella Beauté Bar palette that I tried, but it is definitely everywhere. I didn't have to use any primers or like glitter glues to get this to stay on, but during application it does get everywhere. There's just so much sparkle. I think it lasts a decently long time. I'm going to do a close-up. So we can see here, there is, I need a pen, I need to point this out to y'all. There is like so much glitter. I usually keep my palettes extremely clean. I like to be as clean with my palettes as I can. And with this palette, it was just so hard to keep clean. There is glitter bukkake freaking everywhere on this damn palette. It just gets everywhere. There's just so much sparkle to it. Which is funny because I don't even think that these are that intense. This one's pretty. I don't think that these are that crazy. Like, they're just very sparkly and glittery. They're very kind of transparent, which is not my personal preference. I would have liked these shades to be quite a bit more opaque. So personally for me, this is just a pass. I think if I had more shades, like these metallic shades, I think this would have been a home run for me. But there's just so much sparkle fallout. These sparkly golds just aren't as intense as I would prefer. I still think it's a pretty palette. I still think that if you're interested, you should buy it because it is one of the more affordable palettes, especially for, you know, it's a dupe, you know? So if you were interested in this color story and you were never able to get the palette, I think you should try this out and see if you like it. But, you know, if your qualms with other palettes, like for me, that the shimmers aren't intense enough for you, this may not be the palette for you. But I think overall, even though there is some issues with the shimmers, with the glitter falling out a bit during application, I think that the shimmers in here would be good for someone who does want some sparkle that isn't too intense and wet looking. I think this is a good kind of almost a little too bold, not too bold, but like being a little bit more out there without being too out there. I don't know if that makes sense, because you do have some really pretty shades in here. I just want them to be sparklier, but the mattes in here I love. If you're interested into more neutral looks, I think this is a really great everyday palette for neutral looks for that person who's looking for something like this. I personally would love something a lot more intense. So I wonder if I would have liked the original palette a lot more. If you've ever tried the original palette, let me know down below. I'd love to know your thoughts on the original palette, because I don't think I'll ever be able to get my hands on it. But I think I'm going to pass this palette along to someone who could probably use this palette every day, and who would love a small wash of sparkle on their eyes and something that's not as intense. But overall, I would say I do recommend this palette. I think it's a cute palette. I think even if the price has gone up, it's still pretty affordable in relation to other indie brands. But I do love the mattes in here. I love the color story. That's obviously a dupe. But let me know what y'all think below. Have you ever tried Alter Ego's formula before? I've tried one of their other palettes, and I believe I like that one a lot more than I've liked this one. I'm ready to pass this one on.